Hello and welcome to our front-end web development course. In this class, we're going to be talking about HTML tables. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen HTML tables in your word processing or spreadsheet applications like Microsoft Word, Excel, numbers for your Mac users, and the likes. Same applies to HTML. We have tables, but we don't use the normal semantic elements like div, span, the paragraph elements, and the likes to create our tables. We have specialized elements like the table element, the row element, the TDTH tags, and the likes. And why we need specialized tags is so that the browser would see the table as one whole content and not break it or to scatter the view. A table is meant to give you a tabular view of different data that are related to each other using X and Y components. So this table here is something similar to our subject timetable in our secondary schools. We have first period, second period, third period, comments, and then we have the days of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we have different subjects in between. Let me just give one comment here as good. Now, the first thing I want you to take note of is what I call a cell. You'd see cells are equivalent width and height boxes in this entire table. This is one cell, this is another cell, this is another cell, this is another cell, this is another cell. So cells in HTML are represented by the TR tag. Did I say TR? TD tag, I mean. TD or TH. Depending if it is found in a header like this or in the body of the table. So if it's found in the header, it's T table head, TH. If it's found in the body, it's TD. Also, another thing you should consider is what we call the row. This is a table row. It spans horizontally. And for this row, for example, we have 1 cell, 2 cell, 3 cell, 4 cell, 5 cells. So for this row, we have 5 cells. Another important thing to consider is what we call the column. So when you look at it downwards, everything here is your column. And we're going to be talking about them in a jiffy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This contains 6 cells. 6 cells. Okay, so HTML elements that are useful for your table creation. The first one is the table element itself. The table's element acts as a wrapper for every other component you're going to be having. And basically, the next thing you would have is your table head, T head. Some people don't bother to use it, but it's good practice if you have a T head. So this first row here, becomes your T head based on your design. You determine what becomes what depending on the design you have at the back of your mind. And this here becomes a T body. So we have a T head element here that can be closed with some tags that we're going to talk about. You can close the T head here. Sorry about this. Then you also have your T body that will have all these rows. So I expect your T head to have 1 row. I expect your T body to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. And each row has how many cells? 5 cells. Beautiful. So I expect to have T body with rows again, and then it's closed as T body. Pardon me. I know you know what I'm trying to write. Body. T body. Beautiful. So we have the T head, and the T head would have either 1 row or several rows in between. Would also be having the T body, and we expect the What's wrong with my English, guys? Let's go again. And I expect my T body to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to have 5 rows. You know, you're going to close these tags. 5 rows, another row, and then the last row. So look at the anatomy of an HTML table again. The parent tag is the table tag with the head, just like a human body would have head. Just like a human body would have head and body, the head would contain different rows, or for example, this particular one would have just one row tag that you have to close, you know, and then each row tag would have 5 cells. Can I quickly show you how each row tag is meant to look like? You're meant to have, let me have that down here. You're meant to have a row tag that looks something like this, T row, and then inside each T row, let me close it, inside each T row, TR, you'd have something like a TD. And let's take this first row for example. The first cell, which is TD, would have Monday as the content. I don't know if that's true, but from this, that's true. The second TD would have empty content as the content, TD. The third would have maths. The fourth would be empty, and the fifth would have good. Can we go ahead to design this kind of a table on our online IDE? Okay, so let's check this out in our code editor. I'm sure you already know how to create folders and create your HTML files by now. The first element that we'll be using here is our table elements. Now take note, this is just for semantic. It helps your browser know exactly what's happening and to decide how to display the view to the users, the end user. T head is literally doing nothing than talking to the browser to say I'm the head of this table. So you remember the T head that you have here, just quickly show you, has 5 rows, has 1 row and 5 cells. We're going to replicate that. The T body has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Each rows has 5 cells. Let's go back to our code editor. So we have the T row, or the TR rather. Yes, also close it. And the TR as our first cell. Now, if your cell is in your T head element, I think it's good to use the TH element to represent your cell, to tell the browser, oh, this cell is in the head, TH. But does exactly the same thing like TD. So the first one would be empty. If you remember how our timetable looks like, the second one would have, the second row would have first period as the content. Beautiful. Now you realize you're not seeing the empty cell yet, because if it's empty all through, your browser would not render it. But if there is another row that has content on this first cell that is empty, then it will create an empty space for it here to accommodate every other cell that already has content there. So this is second period, this is third period, and then if you remember the table we drew, we had a comments column. Now based on this, let's go ahead and create our T body. Remember, our T body would have 5 rows, right? And each row would have 5 cells. So let's create the first row, TR. Now, because the cell is inside the T body, we'll use the TD tag and not the TH like we had here. So now the first cell in our head is empty because yes, it is empty in our drawing, but in our body it is not empty. Let me show you again. As you can see, the first cell here is empty, and that's why the th we had was empty. But the first cell in the second row is not empty. It has content called Monday. So this would have Monday. And now what happened is the first cell that was empty now shifted forward because this first cell on the second row is not empty. So if all your first cells are empty, you would not have the browser would not create space for the view. Then the second cell would be mathematics, I guess. The third cell is empty, so you leave the content empty. The fourth cell is also empty, you leave the content empty. And if you don't leave it empty, let's just put English for here to make it more interesting. The last cell is for comments, and let's put good. Now look at this. We have Monday, we have maths, we have second period empty, we have third period English, we have comment good. That would be how many cells? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now let's replicate this row for every other row. We are expecting 5 more rows, right? 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. Let's go ahead to edit. Let's have maths on the second period. Let's have chemistry here. Let's have biology here. Let this be empty. Oh, made a mistake. This should be Wednesday. Biology. Then let's have chemistry. Let's move on to Thursday. Let's have studies. English. Let's have good. Friday. Now, what you observe is we've been able to create an interesting table here that has rows and columns and has different cells. So as long as you're able to create multiple rows, you're going to create columns. What do I mean? As long as you're able to create, let's say row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, you're able to create one entire column here. So you have column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5. Now we have 5 columns and we have 6 rows. Let me explain again. When you look at this, you have with this table T head 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each TR represents a row. We have 6 rows, and each TD or TH would stand in for a column. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. Is that clear? No, we have 6 columns, checking from the head, including the empty th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's very good. We have 5 columns and 6 rows. Now, you can see that our comments column has good. It doesn't make sense if it has good. Why don't we just use the row span attribute on the first cell and then remove every other good element? So look at what we're about to do. For Monday, we have good here. On our TD element, we are adding the row span attribute. Row span. Now, adding the row span attribute, we are expecting it to fill how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then our row span is going to be equal to 5. Now, what happens is the first cell will take up 5 columns entirely. And since we already have that, we don't need this cell anymore. That means what can happen is each of our rows can be shortened to how many rows? How many cells now? Can be shortened to 1, 2, 3, 4 cells instead of 5, because we have asked this guy to take up the spaces of 5. Does it make sense? So yeah, remove good here. Remove good here. And remove good here. Beautiful. What of if we want to add an extra column like you had in Excel and the likes? Before Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we want to have an extra column. All we need to do is add a new cell before the days of the week. So let's start with the header. Create a new cell here. Please ensure you have an entire cell wherever you want to create a new column, even if it's going to be empty. That way it will help preserve the display or the view. So let's go ahead and add a th here, but let it be empty. Then let's go ahead, add another th here. Now, like we have before, let's go ahead, add a td rather. Remember I said it doesn't make any difference, but just for semantic purpose, let's use the right tags. td, td, td. Now, you're not seeing anything here yet because all of them are empty. Let's go ahead and say, oh, everything we want to have here is what we call days of the week. So just say days of the week. But these days of the week at the moment is representing just the first row. If we want it to represent all the rows, we'll still use what we call a row span. You remember? And why do we want to represent all the rows? We want to put all the guys beside it. We want to make it a header for all the guys to its right. So we say row span is 5. Now it's going to scatter our view. You remember? But like before, we're going to delete the first cells that we created because we no longer need them now. The first cell in the first row is now representing all of them as a header. And so we have our view back. Days of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This is what row span can give you. Let's do one more thing. Let's have a header for the periods. Instead of having first period, second period, third period, we can have something similar here. Please take note, we are adding another row to the head. Can you see that? But instead of first period, second period, third period, look at what we're having. From the second th, I hope I'm not missing something now. Yeah. we have what we call periods. Right? So this can also have what we call a cospan attribute, like the row span. And a cospan will go horizontally, while the row span will go vertically. So you could have a row span of 1, 2, 3. Let it take up 3 cells to its right. So it stays in their middle. You can take this period off now. First period, second period, just have first, second, third. Does this make sense, somebody? If we were to style this, for example, and we put borders around each cell, it would make so much sense to you. But because we've not gotten to CSS, I might be hiding that for now. Well, let's play with it. I had a style tag. Then t-add table td tr, let's say yeah, we need a th to complete the last column. Does this make sense, somebody? We can then go ahead to style, but for now, let's leave it this way. Thank you, everybody.